Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship service of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside. And I thank you for joining us an hour earlier than usual in an attempt to beat the heat. Our opening hymn this morning is number 346, Come Sing a Song With Me, from the Gray Hymnal. But I have a few words before we start singing. The words and the music to this song are by Carolyn McDade, who is the person who also composed Spirit of Life, which we all love and is sung worldwide in UU churches. I chose her song this morning, especially to remind us why we come together to form a community. It is not because we all want to be alike. It is not because we all want to be in agreement, but instead to share our experiences that I might know your mind. We can only do that when we feel secure and open, and when we really listen to one another without judgment. So feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Stand in either body or spirit and join us in singing hymn 346, Come Sing a Song With Me. You can either use the hymnal or it will be projected behind me.
Come sing a song with me, come sing a song with me, come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind, and I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find, and I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me, come dream a dream with me, come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind, and I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find, and I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me, come walk in rain with me, come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind, and I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find, and I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me, come share a rose with me, come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind, and I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find, and I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for our virtual attendees. I'm Nick Williams, a member of the Worship Committee, and I will be your worship associate today. Other members of the Worship Committee you will hear from include Tinka Friend, who will be reading the sermon, Alec Peck, our music coordinator, Adam Wedeking, who is monitoring our visual and online connections, and Kate Lewicki, who is in charge of our sound system. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices, please. We welcome you all this morning to this sacred place. We know you come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. We hope you will find comfort, connection, challenge, and love here. We hope you will find ways to provide outreach to others in our congregation and in our local community and in our world community. Before we move into the service, there are a few announcements we would like to share. We will mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all this information, and it is available on our website. This month, UUCR newsletter comes out the first of every month. This monthly UUCR newsletter comes out the first of every month by email and per request by postal mail. If you have something newsworthy or that you would like to contribute, email uuchurchofriverside.calendar@gmail.com or call the church office at 951-686-6515. If you'd like to be added to our mailing list, please contact the church office. First Sunday luncheons are on hiatus for the summer and will return again in September. Enjoy an afternoon filled with good conversation and with your UU friends and family. A barbecue potluck will be held on the lawn between the church and the annex on Tuesday, July 4th at 3 p.m. Please bring a dish to share, and if possible, please help set up and take down tables, etc. If you'd like to help out or contribute, please see Robert Braun. The currently concerned UUs of Riverside will not be meeting today. Friendly reminder, the city's new parking rules go into effect this month. Church Council will meet on the second Friday of the month in the annex. The next meeting will be at 4 p.m. on July 15th. This concludes the announcements for today. Now I invite you to sit back, take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. You're welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. The Reverend Melanie Morel-Ensminger is a retired UU minister. She was ordained in 1993 and served at several churches in Louisiana, New Jersey, and Tennessee. She retired in 2015. She believes in intersectionality, is a music lover, is a proud mother and grandmother. Today, we will begin reading a 4-part summer sermon series entitled Building Bridges Across Diversities. Part 1 will focus on different beliefs and spiritualities. UU congregations are made up of people holding a wide variety of religious beliefs. In fact, UUism draws from several different faith traditions, and we affirm the acceptance and encouragement of diversity. We acknowledge that we need each other and our differences in our search for truth and meaning. Throughout our history, we have been theologically diverse, and that diversity is increasing. We can respect and honor our differences by talking about beliefs, learning from one another, and stimulating everyone's thinking through open and honest sharing of views. We have two lightings of sacred flames. The first is the occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. The second is the lighting of our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We walk upon the traditional territories of diverse and sovereign peoples, the original people of this land, who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. The spot we occupy was first the sacred space of several groups of Indigenous peoples, including the Cahuilla, the Capeño, and the Serrano. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, like the sacred flame, as stewards of this sacred and holy place. We are blessed with a space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Today's reading for the chalice lighting is There is Light by Tinka Friend. There is a light within the principle of forgiveness found in Jesus's teachings. There is light within the principle of mercy found in Islamic teachings. There is light within the principle of love found in Quaker teachings. There is light within the principle of oneness found in Baha'i's teaching. There is light within the principle of loyalty found in Jewish teachings. Let the light of all these principles be manifest as we light our chalice this morning. We have a tradition at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time away. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others, and so I will now ask a volunteer, Adam Whittaking, who has been here a while, and to tell us their name and how they found out about our church. We ask that you step close to the microphone, speak clearly and directly so everyone can hear you. However, do be aware that you will be visible on our Zoom camera and in the recording of this service, which is posted online.
Good morning. My name is Adam. I originally found out about the faith UUism back in 2008. At the time, I was living in Temecula, and the California Supreme Court had just come to a decision that gay marriage should be legal, and there was a proposition on the ballot to make it illegal, Proposition 8. And so me and some friends had decided to do some rallies against Proposition 8. Living in Temecula was a very conservative area. There was a lot of yes on 8 signs everywhere. So we wanted to make some kind of statement in our little conservative city. So we started doing these rallies, and churches kind of showed up on the other side of the street to protest against us. And then one week we had a church join us on our side. And we were really surprised to see that. And so we talked to these people. They were from the local, at the time, there was a UU fellowship in Temecula. And so they taught us what UUism was about. And a couple of us started going kind of regularly after that. They closed, unfortunately. And so I joined what they call the CLF, the Church of the Larger Fellowship, for people who don't have a church. And then when I moved to Riverside area, I started coming here.
Thank you. That's how it's done. If you're new here, a visitor, or an old friend, please raise your hand to stand and come up to the mic in front of the pulpit. There is someone online is there someone online who would like to introduce themselves? Anyone in the audience? Anyone? No one. Okay, Adam, is there anyone on Zoom who'd like to introduce themselves? No one on Zoom? Okay, well. Oh, okay. Okay, sorry, I was zooming ahead. For any other new guests, please join us for socializing and coffee hour after the service. We'd love to chat with you out in the parish hall, where you can also find our visitors book. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know that you were here, and leave your contact information if you want to know about upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. Joys and concerns. They say a shared joy is a double joy. A shared sorrow is half sorrow. On the first Sunday of each month, we share the joys and concerns that we have received from you and which you have collected throughout the month. First, I'm going to read the joys and concerns which were given to us. I don't see a book. No? Okay, nothing in the book. Kate is concerned for Valerie Mitchell, a recent attendee here at UUCR, who has broken her arm due to a car swerving into her on the freeway. Her car was totaled. However, Valerie wants everyone to know she will be back. Is there anyone here in the sanctuary who would like to speak their joy or concern? Please raise your hand and we will invite you to speak here at the microphone.
It's been a rough time as far as politics go. A lot of decisions being made that make me truly question what's going on in the larger world. Enough of them that I would become more boring than I usually am if I mentioned them all. Therefore, my concern is for us, and my devout hope is that we regenerate strongly. Look at the incredibly ridiculous as well as poisonous times we live, and take our lesson not from the mighty oak, but from the small, invasive, and perpetually strong dandelion, which will never die in any lawn given. We will take the pain that we've got, we will overcome, we will get through this. Just don't ask me how. I don't have much of a script for that.
Anyone else with a joy or concern they'd like to share? All right, Walt, please. Step close to the mic and speak clearly.
Actually, Bill already covered it. Perhaps you saw in Face the Nation, Pete Buttigieg said that perhaps we have hit the high watermark and fallen back from it in terms of personal liberty. That's a very sad thought. And so in keeping with my theme of supplying myself with lots of chocolate whenever there's a problem, I did bring some bunny eggs, marshmallow with chocolate covering outside for your pleasure after the service. Thank you.
Anyone else? Come on up. Come on up.
Good morning. My name is Ren. It's a small personal joy, but yesterday I finally got around to getting over to Goodwill and donating a bunch of stuff that's just been sitting in my car for way too long. So, yay!
Hey. Anyone else? So, Tinka friend.
Yes, Tinka friend. Again, a small joy. Mine is actually a joy of gratitude that this morning on our first time, coming earlier and everything, but that because of the heat is that it appears as though today isn't going to be quite as hot as I was afraid that it was going to be. So we should take these small little gifts and really appreciate them. So I am glad that it's not going to be unbearably hot in here this morning. And I just want, for those of you who are new, and we have a lot of new people, this is an old historic church. And obviously when it was built in 1891, there was no air conditioning. And the church did have a air conditioning fund, and we were up to about $50,000 in it. But then we discovered that to put air conditioning in here, because of it being having a historical designation, all the things that it would entail, and it would cost over $100,000. So we had to let go of that dream.
Anyone else? Well, it's good to see everybody here this morning who made it in here early. That's great to see. I would like to share a great joy. I have my permanent tooth put in. Yeah. Yeah, baby. After 5 years in a COVID break, I finally got it in. No more taking out that little plate and feeling embarrassed when I eat and all that sort of thing. But thank you all for putting up with it. I appreciate it. And it's really great to have it in my head again. Okay. Oh, one more. Thank you, Bill. Place a stone in the water chalice to represent the joys and concerns we have shared with our church community, and in recognition of those we hold close and have not shared. May we remember those who have spoken, those they have named, and those we hold in silence in our hearts. Our hymn now is number 354, We Laugh, We Cry. From the gray hymnal, feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, and stand in body or spirit and join us in singing number 354, We Laugh, We Cry.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die. We dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found our among us fills us all with pain and grief. But as we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are done, the memories we shared with friends, they will linger on, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a place to be together. We have the right to grow, we have the gift to believe that peace within a living is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found our joy being together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truly is an answer.
This portion of our service is to support a beloved historical church. This can be accomplished several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is shown here, as well as on the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we have in church each Sunday. Amazon gift cards are also available. You get the full value, and the church also receives a percentage for free. Please see our treasurer to purchase the gift cards. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. And to those who give of their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? There will also be a bag to collect any food and hygiene products for those in need. Our next hymn is number 402, From You I Receive, from the gray hymnal. It will be projected up front. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body your spirit and join us in singing hymn 402, From You I Receive.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
We have a guided meditation by Tinka Friend about religious diversity.
Everyone here, including myself, has been affected in ways, good and bad, by our past association of religious theologies, congregations, rituals, practices, worship, songs, prayers. I could go on and on and on. Perhaps the deeper we were involved, the deeper the pain. We cannot let go of it by avoiding it or reacting to a knee-jerk way. How sad to carry that heavy burden around, chained to it, the way Bob Marley was in Charles Dickens' story, A Christmas Carol. So, please close your eyes and take several deep breaths. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. When you have found a calm space within, please think back to one religious time, one event, or one experience that you still carry around with you and it disturbs your spiritual peace. You don't have to go too deeply into it. You will probably know when you found it. Was it a person, a ritual, a quote from a sacred text? What feeling did it evoke within you? Anger? Fear? Shame? Confusion? Try to identify it. Now, imagine yourself standing up tall, looking at whatever or whoever it was, and saying in your mind loudly and firmly, "No, I won't be defined by this." Was there someone or something from that time of your life that brought you comfort and peace? A person, a song, a passage, a prayer? If there was, reach out in your mind and hold that close to you. Know that just because you reject the oppressive part does not mean that you have to also reject the loving part. At the end of the service, if you wish, you may share that part that you chose to hold on to. Take a deep, soothing breath. Hold it for a moment and let it out. Let's do that one more time. Take a deep, soothing breath. Hold it and let it out. When you are ready, open your eyes and prepare with an open mind to receive the message of this morning's sermon.
Now, I would like to introduce Tinka Friend, reading the sermon, Different Beliefs and Spiritualities by Reverend Morel-Ensminger. The sermon you will be hearing this morning was taken from the worship web found on the website of the Unitarian Universalist Association. As we stated earlier, it is the first in a series of 4 sermons presented under the theme, Building Bridges Across Diversity.
So again, welcome to July at the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside. Those of us who braved the rising temperatures in our sanctuary here in person, and those who attended on Zoom in cooler temperatures. There is something I would like to point out before I start reading today's sermon. This sermon series was written in 2005. And at the General Assembly that year in Fort Worth, a report of the Commission on Appraisal of the Unitarian Universalist Association, which was called Engaging Our Theological Diversity, was released. The findings of that report is the basis for the sermon series that we are doing for the entire month of July. Since then, the UUA Commission on Appraisal has conducted and issued 3 more reports. 2013, it was titled, Who's in Charge Here? The Complex Relationship Between Ministry and Authority. 2017, the title was Class Action, The Struggle with Class in Unitarian Universalism. And the most recent in 2021 was titled Unlocking the Power of Covenant. What this report does is it interviews people all across within churches, UU churches, and then on a particular topic, and then compiles all of that and writes the report. I also feel the need to remind us that since 2005, and certainly since 2015 in this nation, our country, our communities, our churches, and even our families have become even more divided. Perhaps it will be the task of a loving, accepting faith to bring us together again. And now, Building Bridges Across Diversities, Different Beliefs and Spiritualities Summer Sermon Series, Part 1 of 4, by Reverend Melanie Morel-Ensminger. Unitarian Universalist Church in Cherry Hill was where she delivered this sermon on Sunday, August the 7th, 2005. Perhaps the most commonly asked question of Unitarian Universalists has to do with our diversity. After we explain that we have no creedal test for membership, then it comes. Here's the question. How can you be a church if you don't all believe the same things? Often, even longtime UUs feel at a loss to reply. In a world where differences can be deadly, where people who disagree on matters of religion, politics, and experience can resort to lethal violence, it is imperative that a religious movement that prides itself on diversity lead the way to show how human beings can not only get along, but build community across chasms of differences. This sermon and the ones that follow in our summer sermon series attempts to craft answers to that question. Answers that will hopefully help us to deal with differences in the wider world as well. In engaging our theological diversity, the report of the Commission on the Appraisal of the Unitarian Universalist Association, released at General Assembly in Fort Worth, UUs voiced their affirmation of diversity. Some specifically mentioned acceptance and encouragement of diversity, that phrase, as part of their congregation's mission statement. One minister praised diversity, saying, quote, "Diversity means embracing otherness and in so doing, becoming whole." Affirming diversity recognizes that no one person, no one viewpoint is completely right or has all the answers. By saying diversity is a good thing for UU congregations, we acknowledge that we need each other and our differences in our search for truth and meaning. Some might think that dealing with diversity of belief is new for Unitarian Universalism, that in an earlier time, long ago, when the two denominations were separate, perhaps, or when they were both explicitly Christian, there was no need to have conversations about getting along with different beliefs. You might be surprised to find out how long we have been dealing with theological diversity. Centuries. In the 1700s, Universalism was rocked by controversy between those who believed that there was no hell and those who believed hell was only a temporary place of punishment. Fast forward a century to the 1800s, Unitarians were divided over whether you could remain in the fold if you did not believe that Jesus performed miracles. Throughout our history, we have been theologically diverse, and that diversity is increasing. The Commission on Appraisal says, quote, "The range of theological views represented in our congregations is certainly wider than ever before. That situation is not likely to change. In fact, in all likelihood, we will become even more diverse in years to come." In the past, diversity of belief meant arguing over fine points of Christianity. But the 20th century brought new conflict in the form of the humanist-theist debate between those who didn't and those who did find meaning in a concept of God. By the time of the Commission of Appraisal from the American Unitarian Association in 1936, the controversy was in full swing. 27 years later, the Commission's report made it clear that tensions between the two camps had not been smoothed at the time of the merger between the Unitarians and the Universalists. First, UU congregations are made up of people holding a wide variety of religious beliefs. Joining the various stripes of liberal Christianity that make up our historic core and the humanism from the early 20th century have been others: Judaism, Buddhism, Native American spirituality, African spiritualism, neo-paganism, Hinduism, Taoism, feminist spirituality, natural theism, process theology, liberation theology, and many others. Humanism has also been diversified so that now there are atheists, agnostics, and even mystical humanists among us. To further complicate matters that were complicated already, there are UUs whose spirituality can only be described by a hyphen. UU-Buddhist, Jewish-pagan, or as in my own case, Christian, Buddhist, humanist, pagan. Thus, the first dilemma for Unitarian Universalists is that if you value this rich cornucopia of spiritual diversity, there is no other religious home for you. Oh, sure, a person who is only Christian has Christian churches to choose from, and those who are resolutely opposed to hearing anything religious on Sundays have the Ethical Cultural Society. And someone committed to the Dharma could join a Buddhist Sangha. But those who combine the insights from a variety of traditions, and those who are dedicated to the truths that can only be discerned in a community made up of those with religious different beliefs, have nowhere else to go. Second, the Commission on Appraisal found in extensive interviews conducted over several years that there is no majority or consensus theological position in the UUA at this time. Moreover, there is no theological group that feels that it is the UU mainstream. Instead, each and every theological group who talked with the commission, the humanists, the pagans, the Jews, the Buddhists, the Christians, all spoke of feeling marginalized in the Unitarian Universalist Association and, sadly, in their own congregations. So the second irony is heartbreaking. People of nearly every theology in UUism have no other place to go, and yet don't feel completely at home here either. Conflicts in UU congregations over which theology is the right one, or which language can be tolerated, or which holidays can be celebrated, turns Sunday mornings into battlegrounds. Some UUs insist on an imagined right to never hear what offends them. In moments of anger, some UUs have told other UUs, "You're not a real UU," or "You don't belong here." The Commission on Appraisal is blunt. If we truly honor our UU principles, we cannot simply fight for religious freedom out there without fighting for it in here. Theological apartheid has no place in the practice of our religion. So what do we do? How do we unite all these humanists, Christians, Buddhists, Jews, pagans, and the hyphenates? The Commission on Appraisal report has a lot of suggestions, and I strongly recommend that everyone interested in the future of Unitarian Universalism read it. You can find it on the UUA website. What follows is a combination of the Commission's ideas and mine on how we can build bridges across the theological divide. First, I believe that we as individuals and as a movement will not be able to deal with our diversity until we have made peace with our own religious past. Even though both Unitarianism and Universalism began as liberal Christian denominations, and even though UU worship remains culturally Protestant in almost all congregations, theological reactivity is prevalent in UUism around our Christian origins and around the use of scripture and the celebration of Christian holidays. Increasingly, the Commission notes that most UUs would rather celebrate an obscure holiday of a non-Western tradition or hear readings from a foreign holy book than take positive notice of the historical roots of our own faith, a trend that the report labels exoticism. The oversensitivity arises in most cases from a past negative religious experience or experiences in a Christian context. But unless we make peace with our past and release our feelings of anger and betrayal, we will be trapped, unable to embrace a positive religious identity, and always on the alert against anything that reminds us of what hurt us. To reconcile with our past, we need not become the old faith again, only give up our denial about what Unitarian Universalism is and where we came from. Rejecting our origins in Christianity cuts us off from the wisdom that can be found in that tradition. And it makes coalition building in our local communities more difficult. And it renders us less than welcoming to those seekers whose journey has not brought them to dismissing the Christian path. Speaking of welcoming, I believe that Unitarian Universalism needs to practice radical hospitality. Our spiritual forebears were once quite literally the other, estranged from their old religion, outsiders and misfits in their environment, truly often losing livelihoods, security, relationships, and even their lives. In a real sense, we UUs were all once the strangers in the land of Egypt, and it ought to be part of our liberal faith today that we welcome the stranger. The Commission report says, hospitality takes people beyond their personal boundaries. It demands reaching out past our own discomfort, as though the empty seat next to you belongs to the stranger. We need that kind of hospitality in our churches, in our movement, and in our world. And if we truly want to be welcoming, and if we truly want to be leaders in peacemaking, we must. Finally, we need to listen to our mamas and talk things out with each other politely. The Commission on Appraisal found that in most surveyed congregations, conversations about theology and beliefs hardly ever happened because people were afraid that having such a conversation would create conflict and painful disagreement. The Commission concludes, quote, sweeping our UU diversity under the rug by refusing to talk about it in community is not a healthy way to approach the issue. Tolerance and acceptance requires conversation, not avoidance. Talking about beliefs learning from one another, and stimulating everyone's thinking through open and honest sharing of views should be encouraged in congregational life. Without open dialogue, the diversity that exists within community cannot further personal growth. Here in Cherry Hill, we have already begun to have structured community conversations in our fellowship groups about our personal beliefs, where participants are both free and safe to express what they believe about a wide variety of topics of ultimate concern. UU youth groups are famous for their dialogues where deepest held beliefs are shared. UU adults could learn from the youth and find more ways to hold respectful conversations on matter of religious beliefs. Also on the matter of on the matter of religious beliefs, which are free of insult, generalizations, and dismissal. In this way, we would understand each other better and build a stronger community, a model for the world how people of differing religious beliefs can bond together in love and respect. When representatives of different theological groups in the UUA were interviewed by the commission, each was asked about their dream for Unitarian Universalism. Would it surprise you to learn that all the visions were remarkably similar, featuring two main things: a warm, embracing community and working for justice? We are more alike than different. How can you be a church if you don't all believe the same things? By practicing hospitality, honoring our past, and respectfully talking and listening to each other. That's how. So might it be for this church and for our world. Amen, Ashe, Shalom, Salam, Namaste, blessed be. Our closing hymn is it's in the teal hymnal. It's number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. It also will be projected. So feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Stand in either body or spirit and join us in singing hymn 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
With love and amazing grace, when
Please be seated. I chose for the benediction something I've read before, and I thought it was very appropriate. It is called Unitarian Universalist Confession, and it was written by Mary Eads, or Eads. Here we are gathered, humanist and Christian, theist and non-theist, Buddhist and Jew, pagan and seeker, a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Let us confess what we know to be true. We are quick to proclaim our faith, but slow to live the teachings of that faith as it has been handed down to us across every generation, from prophets, preachers and sages, scientists, historians and poets, great thinkers of every age, from ordinary men and women who would have us understand what it is to be and what it is to love our neighbor. We are quick to judge one another, but slow to act for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We are quick to ignore or smooth over broken places among us, too fearful to work for peace and healing. We are quick to share our knowledge, but slow to temper that knowledge with the love and wisdom that leads us always closer to the truth. In small and large ways, we are overwhelmed by all we cannot do. For all the times we fail to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, when we do not affirm and promote the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, when we live as though interdependence were a personal choice and not a fact of our existence, we ask forgiveness of one another, and we vow to begin again in this and every moment. Amen.
Thank you, Tinka, for sharing your valuable time and insights with us this morning. It is sincerely appreciated, and we look forward to seeing you again. For those of you who would like to stay in the sanctuary for 10 to 15 minutes for questions or to share some discussion or observations from the service, please remain in the sanctuary or online. Please be aware that these comments will be posted online. For the rest of you, you're welcome to adjourn to the parish hall.
Those of you that are staying for our usual discussion or sharing, I have prepared some questions that might spark a sharing. So, are there possibly any parts of your previous religion that you still find useful or comforting? How do you identify your religious foundation? Are you a hyphenate, as she calls it? Have you had an experience where you were hesitant or uncomfortable bringing up your religious foundation or practices? Is it uncomfortable for you when someone brings up a religion or practice that caused you pain? And what do you think about those fellowship groups that she talked about in her church? We used to have that at our church. They were called covenant circles. Many of us found them very rewarding. So, is there anyone that wants to come forward to the mic to share an experience, anything that you felt or thought about this morning's service?
I guess my response to this sermon here is two different sets of images. First image is to picture where you've been religiously as a beautiful ring, bronze or gold or platinum, and a beautiful gem, a ruby, a diamond, a sapphire. Or one of the less known things like the jaspers or the amethysts. You have this ring, you have this beautiful thing. And in your other pocket, you have a small scraper. Because that ring is going to shine with a beautiful light. And then it's going to grow some funk on it. And that funk will be directly connected to some of the strongest tenets of that faith. That funk will be the chosen, unchosen people for Christianity, or the people of the book in general. For Buddhism or paganism, it's the get off your ass. Karma is supposed to be a somewhat active force in this universe. With humanism, it's like, dear God, I can barely trust myself. I'm supposed to trust you? Oh, heck no. And in each case, you either decide to keep the ring and scrape off the garbage once in a while because it will regenerate. You will find yourself going back to variations on a theme that if you let it go, it'll just cover right over the beauty of the ring. Your hand's going to look like biomass of some sort. Thank you. But your hand's going to be gloppy and a mess, but you're either going to keep your faith for the beauty of it, the sound of hymns rising up, the conversations, the fellowship. You're either going to, the practice, you're either going to keep that ring and scrape every so often, preferably taking the ring off in the moment to avoid lacerating yourself, or you're going to clean the ring, or you're going to sadly discard it or trade it. But just remember, when you pick up that second ring, that hyphenated ring, good for you. You now have a different brand of garbage, and it's possibly a different scraper. And the thing is, perhaps a thing to remember is that a ring is a set piece in the shimmering world we live in. Some things move slowly, some things move quickly. Humans move quickly. I'm a thing as much as my faith and my belief and my coded beliefs. I'm also this thing of hemoglobin and fire and the moment. As they say, it is never one thing.
Thank you, Bill. I think I'm going to take that image that you held up for us. I think I will take that for me. I think that that's certainly. Ren?
When in the sermon today, you were talking about understanding and accepting the Christian roots of Unitarian Universalism, I had a bit of a realization, a comparison and understanding through my own spiritual teachings. One of my spiritual teachers taught me and the group how to go to the river of blood to heal your ancestors. And one of the students asked, but what if you're adopted? What if you don't know your blood ancestors? What if the people you feel connected to are not related by blood? Or people you've chosen, people who chose you? And the teacher said, you have both. You can go to, a hospital, have your blood work done, and it that's a completely separate thing. But spiritually, You are connected to the blood of your ancestors. And I realize that's the same with UUism. That if to call yourself a UU or UU member, whatever, means accepting the history that comes with it. That even though UUism today does not wholly identify as Christian, it used to. And being a UU member today means accepting that history, not just saying, oh, well, I personally was never Christian, and the UU church today isn't Christian, so that has nothing to do with me. No, it means accepting that history for yourself. And I think understanding and accepting that is an important part of being a member of the group, of any group. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. When you were speaking, Ren, what brought to mind, especially with like the pagan influence, is thinking of Unitarian Universalism, and the roots were Christian. And without those roots, your tree dies. So that's another way that I think of that. And I also want to hold up here, if there's anybody that was uncomfortable with this sermon, if that raised any kind of, if you took exception to it or were uncomfortable about it or anything, please, feel free to come up and share as well. I was a UU for about 10 years before I dealt with negative associations that I had with Christianity and with some upbringing that I had. So we're not always in the same spot at the same time. And that's what we're here for, is to journey together. So is there anyone else? Walt.
This might be more of a personal sort of thing, but I think I resolved something. Diversity is actually a good thing, not only in a church, but I think in one's personal relationship as well. If you recall one of the Seinfeld episodes where Seinfeld finds the woman who talks about, there's lunch and there's dinner. Why isn't there a dinner? And you think, and Seinfeld said, I finally found me. Imagine that. And you're sitting there watching that episode saying, two idiots have found each other. So now my story, I found this wonderful woman here who was 27 years younger than me, but when I found her, and if you could see all the similarities that we had that day that we talked about, you'd see why we actually married. The problem is she was so much like me, literally she is like me, only 27 years younger. When I found her, I was ready to nest. I wanted to have a child and one wife, one time only. And she, like me, that was the least of her priorities, because that's how I used to think 27 years younger. So sometimes finding the exact person like the Seinfeld episode or like mine, perhaps diversity can be of use. Thank you.
Thank you, Walt. Anyone else?
I'm Nick, and I'm a Universalist Unitarian, and I like being in a place where I can take things as seriously or as unseriously as I like. I came in believing in God, and I keep that belief, and yet I find that this congregation can often help expand my spiritual base. And that's what I like about it, is my thoughts are challenged and often defined for me through someone else. And it's comforting to come and have a warm, accepting place where nobody, has a beef with any of these any of these concepts, because we do try to be polite and understanding. And I think that I think that's one of our great strengths is when you ask a question, you're not given a rote answer out of a book that you memorized. That's a great thing about here. That's what I like. Thank you. Anyone on Zoom?
And Adam, you usually are tied to that. So did you want to share anything? Is there anything you wanted to share? Okay, I just want to make sure we include the people who are working to bring us this service this morning. Okay, well, if there are no further comments, I want to thank you for sharing your thoughts. I always take a piece of what people share here, and it enriches me, and I take it with me. It always gives me, it comforts me, or it gives me food for thought. So I thank you very much for those of you who came and shared of yourself. And please join us in the parish hall for further fellowship.